Good evening and welcome to my channel. Iran is bombarding Israel right now with massive ballistic missile barrage, including first ever combat use of FATTAH-2 hypersonic missiles that Iron Dome cannot intercept. Emergency alerts blaring across entire country from Tel Aviv to Haifa to Jerusalem as air raid sirens force 8 million Israelis into bomb shelters, while Israeli Air Force confirms multiple missiles penetrated defenses, hitting populated areas, causing casualties and infrastructure damage in direct revenge for killing Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei yesterday. Iron Dome is failing, not malfunctioning, being overwhelmed by saturation attacks where Iran fires so many missiles simultaneously that defensive systems cannot engage all threats, allowing penetrations that are creating explosions throughout Israeli cities right now as we speak. And critically, Iranian officials announced 1 hour ago that missiles launched toward Israel will reach targets within 60 minutes, giving specific time frame for impacts, meaning every Israeli knows exactly when next wave arrives, creating psychological terror where entire population counts down to incoming strikes they cannot fully stop. This is Iran's revenge for Khamenei's assassination, started immediately and executed comprehensively using advanced weapons capabilities that Israeli defenses were not prepared to handle at this scale and sophistication. Emergency alerts issued. Iron Dome failing, hypersonic missiles incoming, Hezbollah threatening to join with 150,000 rockets from Lebanon. This is revenge operation that threatens to kill more Israelis in single day than any attack since Yom Kippur War in 1973. Let me give you full picture of what's happening right now because situation is developing minute by minute with new missile launches confirmed every hour, creating sustained assault that Israel has never faced before. After Khamenei was confirmed dead yesterday morning, February 28th, in strike that also killed 5 to 10 other top Iranian leaders meeting at his compound, surviving senior official Ali Larijani immediately posted that Iran would deliver unforgettable lesson to Israel and United States. That wasn't empty rhetoric. That was operational warning that revenge was already planned and would execute immediately. Within hours of Larijani's statement, Iranian military began launching ballistic missiles not just at regional U.S. bases in UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan like we covered yesterday, but massive dedicated barrage specifically targeting Israel using Iran's most advanced weapons, including FATTAH-2 hypersonic missiles that travel at speeds exceeding Mach 5 times speed of sound, making them virtually impossible for current Israeli air defense systems to intercept. Israeli Defense Forces confirmed detecting multiple waves of ballistic missile launches from Iranian territory beginning early this morning, March 1st. First wave included approximately 40 to 50 missiles according to initial military assessments. But unlike previous Iranian attacks where missiles arrived in single concentrated salvo allowing Iron Dome to engage all threats sequentially, current assault employs sustained waves separated by intervals, creating continuous pressure on defensive systems that must maintain maximum readiness for extended period. Air raid sirens activated across entire country, not just border regions, not just northern areas near Lebanon or southern zones near Gaza, nationwide alerts from Dan to Eilat covering every population center simultaneously. Israeli Home Front Command issued emergency guidance ordering all citizens to remain near protected spaces, avoid gatherings, and prepare for impacts with minimal warning time. Tel Aviv, Israel's commercial capital with metropolitan population exceeding 4 million people, experienced sirens for first time since Iranian attack in April 2024, but scale of current barrage far exceeds that previous assault. Residents described scenes of panic with families rushing into bomb shelters, highways clogging with vehicles trying to reach protected areas, and schools evacuating children underground in coordinated drills that became real emergency within minutes. Haifa in northern Israel, Jerusalem the capital, Beersheba in south, all reported sirens simultaneously indicating Iran targeting entire country, not specific military installations. This represents strategic shift where Tehran aims to create maximum civilian terror and economic disruption rather than purely military damage. And here's where Iron Dome's limitations become catastrophically clear. Iron Dome system is extraordinarily effective against short-range rockets like those fired from Gaza. During previous conflicts with Hamas, Iron Dome achieved interception rates above 90%, destroying incoming rockets before they reached populated areas. But Iron Dome was designed for specific threat profile, slow-flying, unguided rockets with predictable trajectories launched from relatively close range. Iranian ballistic missiles are completely different threat. They travel at hypersonic speeds during terminal phase. They follow ballistic arcs, meaning they climb to high altitude, then descend almost vertically, making interception window extremely narrow. And critically, Iran's newest FATTAH-2 missiles incorporate maneuvering reentry vehicles that can adjust trajectory during descent, making interception calculations nearly impossible. Israeli military sources speaking to Times of Israel confirmed that Iron Dome batteries engaged multiple targets, but several missiles penetrated defenses, hitting locations in central and northern Israel. Several means at least 3 to 5 missiles reached ground, creating explosions in populated areas, but actual number may be higher because initial battle damage assessment during ongoing attack remains incomplete. Witnesses in Tel Aviv suburbs reported massive explosion around 6:45 a.m. local time that shook buildings for miles, causing windows to shatter in residential neighborhoods. Emergency services rushed to scene, finding impact crater in industrial area near Holon. Casualties being assessed, but initial reports indicate at least 12 injured from blast and flying debris. In Haifa, Israel's third-largest city and major port, missiles struck near oil refineries, creating secondary explosions and fires that emergency crews are still battling. Haifa Bay area hosts critical infrastructure, including fuel storage, chemical plants, and shipping facilities. Missile impact near these facilities raises catastrophic escalation risk if fires spread to fuel tanks, creating explosions that could kill hundreds and devastate Israel's northern economic zone. Jerusalem, considered holy city by 3 major religions and supposed to be protected by international norms prohibiting attacks on religious sites, also came under missile threat. While reports indicate missiles targeting Jerusalem were successfully intercepted before reaching city center, mere fact that Iran aimed weapons at Jerusalem represents symbolic escalation, showing Tehran disregards any restraints in revenge for Khamenei's death. But most concerning development is Iran's announcement about timing of attacks. Iranian military spokesman stated publicly 1 hour ago that missiles launched toward occupied territories will reach targets within 60 minutes. This specific time frame serves dual purpose. Militarily, it forces Israeli civilians to shelter immediately, disrupting normal life and economic activity. Psychologically, it creates countdown where entire population watches clock, knowing strikes will arrive at specific time, creating sustained terror exceeding actual physical damage. Think about psychological impact. You're an Israeli citizen going about your morning when alert arrives saying missiles will hit in 60 minutes. You rush to shelter. You wait. Explosions occur. Some missiles are intercepted. Others penetrate. You don't know if your neighborhood was hit until you emerge. Then 1 hour later, another announcement, next wave arriving in 60 minutes. This cycle repeats continuously, creating perpetual state of emergency where normal life becomes impossible. Israeli hospitals activated mass casualty protocols, moving surgical operations underground and preparing trauma centers for influx of wounded. Gurion Airport outside Tel Aviv suspended all flights, closing Israel's main international gateway. Highway 1 connecting Jerusalem to Tel Aviv experienced traffic chaos as vehicles attempted simultaneous evacuation, creating gridlock that trapped civilians in open during missile impacts. Stock exchange suspended trading, banks closed branches, schools evacuated students to shelters, then sent them home, creating confusion where working parents couldn't retrieve children because they were sheltering at workplaces. This cascading disruption is exactly what Iran intended, showing Israeli population that government cannot protect them from sustained Iranian retaliation, even with most advanced air defenses in world. And then there's FATTAH-2 missile debut that fundamentally changes strategic calculus. FATTAH-2 is Iran's newest ballistic missile incorporating hypersonic glide vehicle technology that Russia and China have developed, but most nations, including United States, have struggled to deploy operationally. These missiles reach speeds exceeding Mach 5 during terminal phase and can maneuver unpredictably, making interception essentially impossible with current defensive systems. Iranian military confirmed for first time that FATTAH-2 missiles were launched toward Israel in today's barrage. Defense analysts have been warning for months that if Iran possesses operational hypersonic weapons, Israeli air defenses would be obsolete overnight. That theoretical concern became reality this morning when missiles traveling faster than defensive systems can react penetrated Iron Dome, creating impacts that shouldn't have been possible according to previous threat assessments. Israel's Arrow system, designed specifically for long-range ballistic missiles, had some success intercepting traditional Iranian missiles during ascent and mid-course flight phases. But Arrow effectiveness drops dramatically against maneuvering hypersonic weapons during terminal descent. David's SLING, Israel's medium-range system, similarly struggles with targets exceeding Mach 5. This means Israel faces growing arsenal of Iranian weapons that existing defenses cannot reliably stop. Military analysts at Institute for National Security Studies published emergency assessment this morning, stating that Iran's use of FATTAH-2 represents strategic game changer, requiring Israel to fundamentally reconsider defensive posture. Previous assumption was that layered defenses combining Iron Dome, David Sling, and Arrow could protect Israeli population from any missile threat. That assumption is now proven false. What does this mean practically? It means Iranian threats are credible. When Tehran says it can strike Israeli cities, that's not bluster. It's demonstrated capability. This shifts entire strategic dynamic because if Israel cannot defend its population from Iranian retaliation, Israeli government must consider whether military operations against Iran are worth costs when homeland remains vulnerable to strikes it cannot fully prevent. But situation grows exponentially more dangerous when you add Hezbollah dimension. Lebanon-based Hezbollah, armed and funded by Iran for decades, possesses estimated 150,000 rockets and missiles aimed at northern Israel. During 2006 Lebanon war, Hezbollah fired approximately 4,000 rockets over 1 month, creating economic disruption and forcing evacuations, but causing relatively limited casualties because most rockets were short-range unguided weapons that Iron Dome could intercept. Since then, Hezbollah arsenal has grown and improved with Iranian assistance. Current inventory includes precision-guided missiles that can target specific buildings, longer-range weapons capable of reaching Tel Aviv from Lebanon, and potentially thousands of missiles in fortified positions, making preemptive strikes difficult. If Hezbollah joins current conflict launching sustained barrages while Iran simultaneously fires ballistic missiles from 800 miles away, Israeli defenses would face two-front assault they cannot handle. Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, speaking via video address this morning, stated that resistance axis would respond to Zionist aggression against Iran with appropriate actions at appropriate time. That phrasing suggests Hezbollah hasn't decided yet whether to join immediately or wait for Iranian signal. But threat is explicit and capability is real, creating northern front danger that could open any moment, multiplying Israeli defensive requirements beyond available resources. Lebanese border remains relatively quiet so far, with only sporadic artillery exchanges, but Israeli military deployed additional Iron Dome batteries to northern communities and activated reserve units specializing in tunnel warfare and border defense, indicating IDF expects Hezbollah entry is matter of when, not if. Civilian evacuations from communities within 10 kilometers of Lebanon border resumed this afternoon, with residents who thought they could return home after previous conflicts discovering that current regional war makes northern residents untenable. Meanwhile, Iranian state television broadcast footage claiming to show successful missile strikes on military targets in occupied Palestine. Video shows explosions and fires, but locations and legitimacy cannot be independently verified. What is verified through multiple Israeli sources, including emergency services, eyewitness accounts, and official military statements, is that several Iranian missiles definitely penetrated defenses, causing damage and casualties in populated areas. Israeli casualty figures remain classified during ongoing emergency, but medical sources speaking anonymously to Israeli media indicate at least 12 to 15 wounded seriously enough to require hospitalization, with potentially higher numbers suffering minor injuries from shattered glass and falling debris. No confirmed deaths reported yet from Iranian strikes, but situation remains fluid, with rescue operations continuing at impact sites and possibility that victims remain trapped under collapsed structures. Compare this to yesterday's Iranian retaliation against regional targets, where one civilian died in UAE from falling missile debris and scores injured across multiple countries. Today's focused assault on Israel appears designed to inflict maximum casualties specifically on Israeli population in direct revenge for Khamenei's death, showing Iranian leadership views Israeli civilians as legitimate targets, just as Israeli strikes killed Iranian civilians, including 108 children at school in Manab. This revenge-counter-revenge cycle creates escalation spiral that neither side can easily exit. Israel killed Khamenei plus killed 108 children in school strike. Iran responds by bombing Israeli cities, attempting to kill Israeli civilians in retaliation. Israel will inevitably respond to today's Iranian missile barrage with additional strikes on Iranian targets, potentially killing more civilians and fueling additional Iranian revenge, creating an endless cycle where each side justifies its actions as legitimate retaliation for previous attack. Oil markets are reacting with panic to sustained Middle East warfare. Brent crude prices jumped 11% in overnight trading, surpassing $110 per barrel as traders price in genuine risk that Strait of Hormuz could close, cutting off 20% of global oil supply. Goldman Sachs revised projection upward, stating oil could reach $130 within weeks if conflict continues disrupting shipping and threatening Saudi production facilities that Iran could target. $130 oil translates to gasoline prices in the United States exceeding $6 per gallon nationally, with some regions potentially seeing $7 to $8. European prices would spike even higher. This economic shock would crush consumer spending, trigger recession in multiple countries, and create political crisis for governments globally as populations blame leaders for energy costs devastating household budgets. Oman called again for immediate ceasefire, stating that continued escalation threatens catastrophic regional consequences. UN Secretary General repeated call for cessation of hostilities, but neither appeal changes military reality that Israeli strikes are continuing. Netanyahu said thousands of targets would be hit in coming days, and Iranian revenge is executing continuously with new missile launches every few hours. Turkish President Erdogan condemned Israeli aggression against Iran while carefully avoiding criticism of Iranian retaliation, creating diplomatic space where Turkey positions itself as mediator while tacitly supporting Iranian position. This alignment between Turkey, major NATO member, and Iran, U.S. adversary, demonstrates fracturing of traditional alliance structures as regional powers calculate that American-Israeli military operation threatens their interests regardless of stated objectives. Subscribe right now and turn on notifications because next 24 hours will determine whether this remains sustained but bounded conflict or escalates into total regional war involving Hezbollah, Syria, Iraq, and potentially direct U.S.-Iran combat if American forces are killed in ongoing Iranian strikes on U.S. bases. When next Iranian missile wave launches, when Hezbollah decides whether to join, when Israeli strikes hit additional sensitive targets in Tehran, when oil hits $130 creating global economic panic. This channel tells you what it means as it happens. Before you go, answer this question. Can Israel defend itself against sustained Iranian missile barrage, or is Iron Dome obsolete? Comment below. A. Israel defenses will adapt and hold. B. Iron Dome cannot handle hypersonic weapons. Israel is vulnerable. C. Hezbollah joining would overwhelm all defenses. Total collapse. Drop A, B, or C right now. I want to see what you think. Iran is bombarding Israel. Iron Dome is failing. Emergency alerts blaring. FATTAH-2 hypersonic missiles penetrating. Hezbollah threatening to join. Casualties mounting. Oil spiking. This is revenge for Khamenei, and it's only beginning. Subscribe now. I will see you in next update.